Today we're going to review the 2021 Toyota Highlander Hybrid, one of the most fuel-efficient three-row SUVs you can buy. Should you purchase this over a non-hybrid SUV? Let's find out, but first, a Highlander montage. If you're familiar with my channel, you're well aware that I love older cars, especially the weird and forgotten cars from the 80s and the 90s. While this older stuff fills my heart with joy, I know that these vehicles can be a bit needy and maybe not always the best choice for a family car. I just did a video with this 1986 Toyota 4Runner Turbo, which I loved. I really want to buy one of those, but it's not exactly practical for hauling around my family. So today, let's take an in-depth look at the 2021 Toyota Highlander Hybrid Limited. It was fully redesigned in 2020, the gas mileage is fantastic, and it's loaded with tech. Let's take it on a road trip with my family to find out if it's any good. For this review, let's cut to the chase. What is the main reason for buying a Toyota Highlander Hybrid? If I had to make this review just 5 seconds long, it would go something like this. Welcome to Hello Road, three-row SUV, 35 mpg. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye. Wait, don't go away, there's more. But really, that's the main takeaway. You want a lot of space for your family and you don't want to burn a ton of gas. This is just about the most efficient option you could get, short of buying a much more expensive plug-in hybrid or fully electric SUV. Most SUVs of this size have traditionally gotten crappy fuel economy, but the Highlander Hybrid is an exception to that rule. This all-wheel drive version gets 35 miles per gallon combined, and if you opt for front-wheel drive only, it gets bumped up to 36. There's not many other vehicles this size that come close. The new Toyota Sienna, which is also a hybrid, is a possibility, also making 36 miles per gallon. But maybe you think minivans are uncool. Top tip, they're not. You could look at the Kia Sorento Hybrid, which gets 37 miles per gallon combined, but can't be had with all-wheel drive. Or maybe even the Ford Explorer Hybrid, but that gets a miserable 25 miles per gallon combined when equipped with all-wheel drive and 28 without, but at least it has a decent tow rating. And if you go with a non-hybrid Highlander, you're stuck at 23 miles per gallon. Now let's talk about the exterior design. Whether you like it or not, American roads have been taken over by crossovers and SUVs. There are so many on the road now, it's getting more and more difficult to tell them apart. And I think that's why Toyota went with this bold character line here on the side, which really does help it stand out a bit. The hybrid powertrain is an option on the LE, the XLE, the Limited, and the Platinum. This Limited gives some added features like LED projector headlights and LED daytime running lights and high output LED fog lights, basically LED everything. And you've got roof rails and fancy 20-inch chrome wheels. On to the front end, I think Toyota has finally listened to me and toned down their grills a bit. But if you're one of the few that loves big grills and you cannot lie, you can still get a huge grill if you opt for the sportier XSE trim. This Limited front end looks decent, if not a bit derivative, but overall, it looks fine. So in the back here, it looks a bit more upscale than the previous generation Highlander. Overall, the Highlander looks decent, but I think the Kia Telluride looks better and a bit more premium with its cleaner design. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. The Highlander has been around for 20 years and was Toyota's top-selling SUV until the RAV4 eclipsed it a few years ago. Wait a second, the Highlander's been around for 20 years? Let's take a quick trip down Highlander's memory lane. Do you remember back in 2000 when the first-gen Highlander came to the market? Back then, truck-like body-on-frame SUVs like the 4Runner were popular, but a massive shift towards car-like SUVs was well underway. Upon its introduction, the Highlander quickly took the sales crown away from the 4Runner and never looked back. A hybrid was first introduced for the 2006 model year, and 3 full redesigns have kept it current throughout the past 2 decades. While Toyota now sells more RAV4s than Highlanders, they still move a ton of these things. The Highlander has long been a great choice for a mid-size SUV, and this latest model is no exception. While you still can get a 295 horsepower V6 in the non-hybrid models, Toyota has downsized their hybrid versions to a 2.5 liter inline 4-cylinder. When paired with the electric motors, it makes a combined 243 horsepower. That's a considerable drop from the previous generation hybrid, which made 306 horsepower. But keep in mind, that one only got 29 miles per gallon. Before we drive it, let's take a look at the interior. Lower end trims come with a bench seat in the second row, and higher trims get captain's chairs. But those higher end trims like this Limited also have a no cost option to stick with a bench, which is what we have here. Second row comfort is fantastic. I'm 6'3", and there's loads of legroom and headroom. The seats also slide forward and back like a minivan, which is really nice. 3-zone climate control is standard. We've got controls and vents back here. The Limited gives you leather seats, which look nice, maybe not Lexus nice, but close. Limited trim also gives you built-in sunshades and fake wood trim, which feels very fake, but actually looks pretty decent.
All right, let's check out this third row. Getting in's not that much more difficult than a minivan, but this is where things start to go awry. Ow, my knees, my legs, help, ow. Yeah, for someone my height, this pretty much sucks from every angle. Not only is it extremely uncomfortable with these seats being right here on the floor, most adults should probably remove all limbs and appendages before attempting to sit back here. This is pretty ridiculous.
Good news is that there's vents and cup holders, but no USB ports, which is a bummer because when you're stuck back here, you probably want to bury your head in your phone to take your mind away from the severe lack of comfort.
Okay, so I'm being a bit harsh. In reality, it's not that bad.
While this third row is just about the smallest for this class of vehicle, it's actually totally fine for kids or for smaller adults on very short trips. But if you really want to maximize third row comfort, you'll need to check out something like the Kia Telluride or bump up to a minivan. With those third row seats up, you get a tiny 16 cubic feet of cargo space. Put those third row seats down and now you have a very respectable 48.4 cubic feet. And with all seats folded flat, we've got just over 84. That's a really good amount of space. Okay, now on to the front. While there are quite a few different shapes and materials and motifs going on in here, I am a fan of this design. With these nice leather seats, soft touch surfaces everywhere, and the huge optional 12.3-inch display, it's making a good attempt to mimic Lexus levels of refinement and quality. It's not as spacious as a Hyundai Palisade or a Kia Telluride, as this vehicle is a bit smaller, but it has more than enough space. Lots of headroom, legroom, and hip room in here. Overall, it feels pretty open. 3-way climate control is standard across the lineup. The controls are straightforward, but some functions like recirculate can only be accessed via the touchscreen. We've got a decent sized sunroof, but the panoramic sunroof can only be had on the Platinum trim. Lots of USB ports, and this Limited comes with wireless charging, strangely placed in this center console. It's weird, but it kind of works, at least if your phone isn't too huge. But depending on how you use it, your phone can fall out of it, which is kind of annoying. Lift up and you can access a smallish center console underneath. I think I'd prefer if the wireless charging were placed somewhere else, pretty much anywhere else. If you're not using that wireless charger, there's a useful little pocket up here to store your phone with a space to run the cable down to the USB port, which is a nice touch. The Limited trim also upgrades the seats to 10-way power for the driver and 4-way power for the passenger. These front row seats are also heated and cooled. Limited also provides a heated steering wheel, 120-volt outlets, a larger 7-inch display in front of the driver, and a JBL audio system, which sounds decent and does get pretty loud. This optional larger display is certainly the focal point of the interior, and the bird's eye view camera with a 360-degree overhead view, it's pretty awesome and quite useful. The infotainment system works well, it's responsive, has physical buttons, a tuning knob, and a volume knob. But as I've mentioned in other videos, Toyota's graphics just don't look as nice as some of the competition, and the nav system isn't my favorite to deal with. This larger display means more information can be shown, but it took me a while to get the handle on where to find certain functions. It's not immediately intuitive. If you're not used to loads of menus and information displays, there is the potential of getting lost here. You can customize the experience by sliding displays to the left or right, which is nice, but it might be overkill for some. You've got Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which is great, but it is a bit strange that it can never take up the full screen. But ultimately, once you get the hang of the system, you'll find it contains pretty much all the features you'd ever want. After driving this Highlander for the last week, it seems pretty apparent that Toyota's goal here was a calming, relaxing, easy, comfortable driving experience. It feels soft. The ride is smooth, the suspension is soft, the seats are comfortable and soft, the steering is lightweight and easy, and it's relatively quiet in here. Again, not quite Lexus levels of refinement and quality, but I think it's fair to say that it's Lexus-ish. The Highlander does feel large, especially on a road like this. Body roll is quite evident on curvy back roads. There's nothing remotely sporty or emotional about this experience. If you want a bit more driving engagement, you'll probably want to lean towards a Mazda CX-9, or you could try out the Highlander XSE, which does have a bit more sporting qualities, including torque vectoring, which would probably make it feel a bit more sure-footed on a road like this. Visibility is pretty good all around, easy to see out of the front. Not quite as easy to see out of the back, but that's sort of par for the course for most newer vehicles. Like other Toyota hybrid vehicles, there's several driving modes. Right here we've got normal, eco, and sport. I didn't notice much difference in terms of acceleration or passing power with any of these modes, although the throttle feel for each of them is quite different. So most often you'll probably just leave it in normal mode, or you could put it in eco mode to try to coerce yourself into driving a bit more efficiently, or put it in sport mode to give yourself the illusion that you're going faster. There's also a trail mode for light off-roading, which sends a bit more power to the rear, and an EV mode, which is limited by speed and battery charge, keeping it from being all that useful. In terms of acceleration, it's adequate. From a stop, the torque of the electric motors does make it feel somewhat brisk, flooring it at freeway speeds to get around someone, and it certainly doesn't feel as sprightly as the V6, but decent enough for most situations. In terms of power and capability of a three-row SUV, one thing you might be considering is towing. That's one of the downsides of the hybrid powertrain here. Towing capacity is reduced to 3,500 pounds. You get 5,000 if you stick with the V6. Like most vehicles with CVTs, the engine can get a bit drony when you're accelerating, but the noise isn't all that intrusive. Now, I've been critical of Toyota hybrid brakes in the past. In the Prius, the Corolla Hybrid, and the RAV4 Hybrid, the transition between regenerative braking and standard braking always left something to be desired. Pedal feel is a bit weird, and it was always somewhat difficult to modulate. But here on the Highlander Hybrid, I think they might have finally figured it out. The pedal feels a lot better. All right, let's drive home, pick up my family, and head out on a little road trip to go do some hiking at Red Rock Canyon State Park.
Take a look. Is that car angry?
Even madder than the other one.
It's even madder than the other one?
It is pretty mad.
This is a very angry looking vehicle. What do you think? Angry?
Angry.
Okay, let's hop in.
Yay!
Out here on the freeway, the ride is nice. The cabin has been really quiet. We've all been super comfortable so far. So I've been using this adaptive cruise control system for most of this trip, and by and large it works quite well. The only gripe that I have is sometimes you want to get around a slower car, change lanes. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time to get up to speed to get around that vehicle. But other than that, no complaints. We've also got the lane keep assist feature, which is supposed to help keep you in your lane. On the Highlander, it's adequate, but much like the Sienna minivan that I tested recently, it does feel like it bounces me around in the lane a bit. For that reason, I've mostly left it turned off. Like most new Toyota vehicles, the Highlander is equipped with an all-encompassing suite of safety tech and driver assistance features. Things like automated emergency braking, blind spot monitoring, and rear cross traffic alert. The Highlander was also named a top safety pick by IIHS, so it does give you a good feeling of safety behind the wheel. There's also a nice feature up here which lets you know which seat belts are buckled and which ones are not. No more yelling in the back. Are you buckled yet? Are you buckled yet? This Limited comes with a feature called Driver Easy Speak, which amplifies the driver's voice in the rear speakers. Perfect for your kids that are getting quite good at ignoring you. Let's check it out. How's it going back there?
Keep your eyes on the road, Dad.
All right, here we are at Red Rock Canyon State Park, just about an hour and a half north of Los Angeles. And this place looks like I could be on the surface of Mars. Now, the nice thing about this park is they kind of let you explore pretty much anywhere. There are marked trails, but there aren't really any restrictions in terms of where you can go and explore. So I'm gonna go right up there.
Okay, let's talk price. The L starts at just under 35 grand, but no hybrid is available for that base model. The next step up is the LE, starting at just over 37. And if you're already committed to the LE, it's only another $1,400 to bump up to the hybrid powertrain. If you don't, you get that great V6, but you're stuck with 23 miles per gallon combined. Not great. This Limited hybrid all-wheel drive right here with a few options comes in at just over $50,000. And with the top tier Platinum, you can easily spec these well past 50 grand. So, what's my verdict? If you've already decided you want to live the Highlander life, I think you might as well plunk down the extra $1,400 for the hybrid and dramatically increase your fuel efficiency. It won't take very long to make that money back in gas savings. If you don't need the power of a V6, you're not planning on towing, and you want to burn less fuel, this is a fantastic option. The Highlander Hybrid is one of the most sensible and economical three-row SUV choices available today. What do you think? Would you buy a Highlander Hybrid? If not, what would you choose instead? If you like this video, please consider subscribing and hitting that bell icon so you can be notified of all my new car reviews, used car reviews, and updates on my fleet of strange and mostly broken 80s and 90s vehicles. I hope you're well, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.